It's Arcarerus, and today I wanted to take inspiration from inspiration inspiration from Janinja Ninja and talk about a character of mine that I've been nonstop thinking about, Sybil Keith. She is my baby girl, and I love her so dearly, and I wish to talk about her. But first, before we talk about her, we have to go over some trigger warnings, because as with most OCs, she has trauma. So, her backstory deals with subjects of neglect, alcoholism, toxic relationships, adult fun times. YouTube, please don't get me. I swear it's just mentioned. And use of weed. So, if you are sensitive to those topics or are too young to be hearing about those subjects, you should probably be clicking off this video now. So, an important thing to understand about Sybil before we start is her core beliefs as a person. So, her core beliefs are that everyone is selfish, she needs to be taking care of her siblings, and that she can't allow herself to be hurt again. All these traits were developed one way or another from her childhood slash like mid adulthood, because she's 24, but we'll get into that later. For now, let's talk about the basics. Sybil is a 24-year-old Latina who was born and raised in the Bronx. She's she/they/he pronouns, but with a preference to she/her. She is pansexual, and she is a botanist with a minor in biology. She was born June 24th and was made for an RPG series that my friend runs called Regained. Sybil is very much known for being very bitchy, but she's generally very quiet with her bitchiness in mind, usually only piping up when one of her crewmates is being stupid and off task. She usually is all work and no play, spending most of her time on the spaceship doing her botany work. Despite her bitchiness, however, Sybil can be very nice. It just takes a lot of work to get that out of her. Usually, if she sees you as useful, or if you do something really nice for her, she'll probably do something nice for you in return, and that will eventually end up turning into her becoming friends with you. Probably not her outright admitting that, but she'll be friends with you. Anyways, she's very much a show not tell type of person with her acts of kindness, because it's just something she doesn't really know how to properly word, so she rather show you that she likes you through talking about it, or not talking about it. I'm sorry guys, I'm tired. Usually by doing things about it rather than talking about it. So like an example I used with one of my friends was that, like, if someone doesn't like coffee and they're like served coffee, she'll take the coffee and she'll trade it out for juice for them, and she'll steal their coffee and drink it. Stuff like that, small things, minor things. And so now that we have the basics covered, let's delve into her life before the crew. Before she went on the mission, her house was kind of a mess. Her house wasn't always a mess. Like, when she was a little kid, her life was actually pretty good. Her parents were really nice to her. But everything kind of changed once her sister Clem was born. Because when Clem was born, her father ended up finding out that her mom was cheating on him. And that kind of started the downward spiral in her household. That downward spiral being her father becoming an alcoholic and her mom, like, starting to cheat on him more. And they tried to fix the relationship, hence why Sybil has, like, a total of, like, 3 more siblings after Clem. But that obviously didn't work, and so now Sybil is kind of forced to be the main provider and main caretaker in her household, because her dad refuses to do anything, and then now her mom is just never home. None of the money that she's making from being a nurse either is going to Sybil's siblings. So now Sybil is forced to be the sole provider of the house and having to take care of all of her siblings at once, and so that causes her to have a lot of stress in her home life. And this has led to a bunch of animosity building inside of her, because she's like, I shouldn't be having to do this. I'm not their parent. So why should I be doing this, right? And so initially, as she was building these feelings of animosity, right, she ended up acting upon it and deciding to just straight up leave the house. And she moved in with an ex of hers that was actually pretty toxic. Their relationship was just toxic to each other in general, because it was mainly built out of, like, this need for, like, trying to think of how to word it without getting, like, hunted down by YouTube. A need of adult fun time. And so Sybil thought this was a genuine relationship because the only real relationship that she's ever really saw was her relationship between her mother and her father. So she thought it was something healthy, and she thought this was yes, this is a proper way to show my affection towards someone and be dependent on someone. But it wasn't the case, and it ended up becoming really toxic because it was like, it wasn't a healthy way to cope with her emotions. And then also, it wasn't really healthy of a way in general because he would make her do things that she necessarily wouldn't have normally done. Like, this is where the weed usage comes in. She would buy him weed and stuff like that, and it became a whole ordeal. It was a whole thing, and she ended up realizing that this wasn't a healthy thing to do, and then also it wasn't healthy for her siblings, for them to not have anyone really taking care of them, right? So she decides to leave him and dump his ass, and now she's back with her family, and she's straightened herself out. She still has this like stress, but with the help of her younger sister Clem, who probably also has matured a little too much for her age, right? They both together work towards like making sure that their house is an absolute dumpster fire, and so that's kind of just in general where that whole idea of her feeling like everyone is selfish and that she needs to be taking care of her siblings come from, and that she can't allow herself to be hurt again, right? Because her ex hurt her like emotionally, and then her, there's that selfishness that comes from both her ex and her parents and stuff like that, and it's just been very difficult for her. Can you tell I've hit the point of the script to where this isn't scripted? Yeah, because I brain fart a lot when I'm recording specifically, and I don't have a script written out, and so I do apologize, but this is probably going to be the run I go with. I'm allowed to complain in my own videos, damn it. But yeah, so Sybil likes to pretend that none of this bothers her. It very much does bother her, and she hides that behind her bitchy persona a lot. And so it's like that one Tumblr text post of like, you fell for it. You fell for the facade that this character's been putting out because they want to be hated, right? And that's very much Sybil. She wants to be hated because it's like, oh yeah, if all these people hate me, then I can't get close to anyone. And if I can't get close to anyone, then no one can hurt me, right? And so that's going to probably cause her more problems than good, obviously, because you can't survive on your own. Humans are a social species, and being isolated is just not a good thing for you, right? And it's especially going to become true once this like mission takes off and she can't see her siblings, so she essentially has no one to really interact with and stuff like that. And so I can't wait for that to kind of be like a whole precedent to her character, I guess is the word for it. I'm trying to think of what else to add because I guess I could delve into fun facts. She's a hardcore emo. She listens to My Chemical Romance and Pierce the Veil being her favorite band. She's allergic to bees and wasps and then also bananas, but she doesn't know any of this because her family comes from a little bit of a poorer side. So, because of her mother not funding their family. So she never got allergy tested. She shares a room with her little brother Gil because he's scared of the dark, and so if you were to walk into her room, you would see a bunch of little rubber duckies because Gil is obsessed with rubber duckies. Her siblings' ages are very much younger than her. She's very much the oldest. She's 24, and then you have Clem, who's like 9, Ivy's 5, Gil's 3, and then Ara is literally an infant, like a baby. She is literally an infant. She has a bunch of plants around her house that she likes to tend to when she has the time to tend to them. She does a lot of scrapbooking on her spare time, and that's kind of like the form of artistry that she participates in when she has the time. It's a great way for her to vent out her feelings without like telling other people, and it allows her to be emotionally like quiet about her feelings but still getting them out. Despite her like outward like bitchiness and stuff like that, she's actually quite intelligent for her age, and not for her age, she's 24, but because it comes from her being in a science field in general and always just liking learning about new things and stuff like that, so she's very smart. A hobby of hers is knife throwing. Yeah, I haven't shared that one with many people. But she is really good at knife throwing, and she learned it from that like month or so that she was living with her ex. And so she has like a set of like throwing knives, so she has in a box to where her siblings cannot reach it. I'm making that clear. Her siblings have not touched any of her knives. She does partake in weed smoking still, but more of as a stress relief every once in a while, and she does it not in front of her siblings because she's a good influence to at least them. Uh, hmm. She's been in a total of 5 relationships, her most recent one being actually the healthiest one she's been in, and it's not the ex that she ran off with for a month. I haven't really fleshed out that character of her good ex, but I'm assuming that it's probably a woman and that they were really healthy towards her and helped her out with her siblings. But eventually, Sybil kind of had to let them go because it's like, well, I can't have you be responsible for them because they're my siblings, not yours, right? If I had to say something that would probably help benefit Sybil, probably finally getting the courage to get in contact with CPS. Probably, she knows that there's consequences with CPS and the fact that her siblings might get separated and stuff like that, and that's why she hasn't done anything. She's trying to find a way to get custody of her siblings, but the thing is, ultimately, that might not be the healthiest thing for her because she needs to be able to live her life without feeling like she has to be like emotionally in charge of these younger people, right? She isn't built out to be a parent, and she doesn't want to be a parent. She just feels obligated to, and that might be the most unhealthy thing in the outcome, right? So if everything worked out well with CPS and stuff like that, it would probably have to end up being a situation to where they're all stuck together and that she's able to come and visit and finally like go out and live her life as a 24-year-old, right? Oh, I just realized she's born June 24th and she's 24 years old. And that's funny. But yeah, that's kind of, I wanted to just get my rambles out about her, and I guess I also wanted to explain her backstory because I feel like the small interactions that we've had so far with Regained, it kind of felt necessary to talk about the fact about she isn't a bitch for no reason. She's a bitch because she's been hurt and she genuinely feels like this is herself defending herself, right? Whereas she doesn't need to be defending herself against people. She needs to like learn and grow from her trauma. And I feel that this whole story of Regained will help push that like coping with her trauma in a healthier way to a good direction. So yeah, that's kind of all it. Thank you all so much for listening to me ramble. This is very disconjointed. I do apologize. I just wanted to get the rambles out. I hope you all enjoyed. Don't forget to eat, drink, sleep, take your meds, and don't stay up as late as I do. Bye, guys.